And of course, the first finals game here inside the Garden in 27 years. The atmosphere was absolutely incredible, but this one results in a loss. And this is the first time in 14 games that we are talking about a Knicks loss. What was the feeling like in the locker room after the game?
I think it was resolute. These guys weren't going to dwell on the loss. They took responsibility for what went wrong, including turnovers, and they felt like they could clean things up. Landry Shamet saying just that, and saying that all the guys in this locker room would look in the mirror and would get better and would get ready for Game 4. So it was a locker room of accountability and kind of moving past what happened.
Yeah, you mentioned the turnovers, but what do you think led to this loss? Do you think it was something that, or some things that the Spurs did to kind of disrupt the Knicks, or do you think it was more so some of the self-inflicted wounds?
Yeah, there were some unforced turnovers, just sloppy passes, passes where guys were cutting, but the pass was thrown behind them. There were a few of those. Obviously, you give San Antonio credit for defending well and making shots on the other end, but the turnovers were high. And Mike Brown talked a lot about the foul discrepancy after the game. I wonder if his comments will influence the refs going into Game 4. It'll be interesting to see.
You wonder if it does. 13 turnovers for the Knicks, conceding 21 points. Now looking ahead to Game 4 on Wednesday, what do they need to do to get a win? I just mentioned the first finals game here in 27 years. These Knicks fans are itching for a victory. The energy was high, but they obviously couldn't get it done. What do they need to change?
Yeah, well, that's interesting. The energy was high, but I thought the Spurs kind of sucked it out of the building at times during this game. But Game 4, moving ahead, the ball's got to move more. I think Jalen Brunson even mentioned that after the game. Mikal Bridges, too, was saying that people have to move away from the ball. Ball's got to pop more. That's something that you saw consistently from this Knicks team during that winning streak. You did not see it as consistently in Game 3. So I think that's one thing where you can look at the tape and say, this is what we have to do differently Game 4.
We'll see if they can make those adjustments on Wednesday, right, Ian? Amen. Back to you.
We now welcome in Jonathan Macri, the Dean of Knicks Film School, and certainly the officiating, a popular topic right now in watering holes all across the New York area. But, Jonathan, the Knicks were 7 of 27 from the floor in the fourth quarter, 26%. How much of that was good Spurs defense, and how much of that was poor Knicks offense?
Well, I think you always look at the Spurs defense first. You know, when Victor Wembanyama's on the court, it just changes everything about what you try to do. There's a reason that nothing has come easy, certainly from the mid-range, even around the hoop from the Knicks in this series. But I also thought the Knicks got some good looks in the fourth quarter that just didn't go down. A lot of open ones. They were 2 for 14 from 3 in the period. Again, a lot of those were good shots. More than the fourth quarter, I'm looking at how they started the game and even more so how they started the third quarter. If they showed some more poise and discipline in those parts of the game, I don't think we would be talking quite as much about the shot making in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, start of the second half was sloppy, to say the least. All right, Karl-Anthony Towns was the leading candidate, maybe the only candidate for the NBA Finals MVP after the first 2 games, but he only had 11 in Game 3. What adjustments did San Antonio make to neutralize Cat?
Yeah, so the big adjustment they made was the thing that we thought that they were going to do from the start of the series, and that's put Victor Wembanyama on Josh Hart and dare Josh Hart to shoot threes. The good news tonight for the Knicks was that, hey, Josh Hart shot those threes and he made them, going 4 of 7 from behind the arc. That's the good. The bad thing is that by employing that sort of defense, you basically take Towns' ability away to do anything or much of anything inside the arc. And the result is that he's going to need to then shoot more threes if he wants to make an impact. You saw it tonight. He only took 2 3-pointers. You got a lot of pump fakes from him that didn't really lead to much good stuff for the Knicks. So this is something that the Knicks are going to have to go back over the next 48 hours and talk about behind the scenes. What are we going to do, and what is Cat going to do if he sees this coverage again?
Yeah, plenty of adjustments need to be made for Mike Brown and the coaching staff. All right, now Mikal Bridges was enjoying life in the penthouse for a while, but Jonathan, I'm guessing he's finding his way back into your doghouse after this one.
You know, Eamon, it might surprise you. I'm going to give Mikal a little bit of a pass. I will say at the start of the game, talked about a lack of discipline. Mikal Bridges is a guy who never fouls, so it was shocking to see him pick up 2 early fouls in this game. I really thought that kind of threw the Knicks off, threw Mike Brown off. You saw Mike Brown kind of trying to piecemeal it with the rotations for the rest of the game. But Mikal Bridges, look, defensively, I thought he played a pretty strong game. Did go 0 of 3 from behind the arc. That obviously hurt. Those had some good looks there. He's going to need to be better. But you know what? It's not just him. Everybody with the possible exception of OG Anunoby, who was outstanding tonight, needs to come with a better performance in what is now an awfully pressure-filled game on Wednesday night at Madison Square Garden.
We are now joined by Mark Malusis and John Jastrzemski for more on the Knicks coming up short in Game 3. And obviously, guys, we usually look at this completely from the Knicks angle. But, Moose, what did the Spurs show us by coming into the Garden and getting this win on the road?
Yeah, you heard over the last couple of days from people around San Antonio that they felt good about themselves going into Game 3, and they played like it. I thought they set the tone early in the game, lead by 11 after quarter number 1, withstood the wave of the Knicks in the second quarter where they dropped in 42 points, trailed by 7 at the half. The Knicks scored 47 points in the second half. Defensively, they were really good. They've been physical with Jalen Brunson. Obviously, they've gotten the benefit of the whistle, but they've also attacked. Jonathan mentioned the fact that, they made the adjustment, and Hart was really good offensively, but for the Knicks here, the points in the paint were not there because of what Victor Wembanyama represents defensively. You saw in the Oklahoma City series, you see it here with the Knicks. You can't get those easy baskets. You can't get the drives to the lane. You can't be aggressive getting to the rim and potentially getting to the free throw line and getting those foul calls because of the defensive presence of Victor Wembanyama. This is a heck of a win. Castle was utterly brilliant, the former UConn star. He had a big 3 late. You give Wembanyama, who I think finished with 32 points. I think he had 8 boards and 6 assists. He was utterly brilliant as well. Give that San Antonio team a ton of credit because everyone buried them after the first 2 games. To come into Madison Square Garden tonight and walk out victorious is an unbelievable win.
Totally agree. The question everybody had going into Game 3, you knew this was going to be the most charged up, juiced up Madison Square Garden, first finals game in 27 years. And how would the young San Antonio Spurs respond? Well, they got off to a hot start. Then the Knicks go and drop 40-something points in the second quarter, and it's a garden party. Charles Barkley's proclaiming the series is over. The Knicks are up by 7+ points, and everybody's dancing in the streets. San Antonio is relentless. We have seen that. Even though they're down 2-1 in this series, they were down 14 in the fourth quarter of Game 2. They fought back. They were down 7 going into the locker room, stormed back with physicality. Castle, unbelievable game. Wembanyama, unbelievable game. When they needed to hit big shots, they hit big shots. They forced the Knicks in a position where the Knicks were fouling. They ended up in the penalty. And I know a whole lot of Knicks fans, and Mike Brown included, are not going to be in love with the officiating. But to me, this game is not about the officiating because the Knicks did not play well enough. San Antonio wanted it more. They were feistier. They were better as far as their level of execution. And this was not a fluke. This game was not lost today because of the officiating and the fact that the Knicks were in the penalty with like 4 or 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. That, to me, is totally unfair, and it takes away from what San Antonio did well.